What is going on, everybody? We are back here today with another video, and we are going to be talking about blitzing today. We're going to be talking about some of my top tips and tricks for blitzing, especially if you're trying to hit the top 100 or the top 2,000, depending on what kind of player you are, or if you're just trying to hit that 1 to 2%. Hopefully these tips and tricks help you guys out. It's been a little bit hectic, but I've been getting a lot of PMs on Discord on making some videos on blitzing, so here we are. It's a little bit long but overdue, and yeah, we are lucky. We've got the Kid Arachnid Blitz this week, so last week we also had the Crystal Blitz, so it's given me a bit of time to kind of just coast around, and it's been nice not having to check on the game and blitzing. But anyways, we're back here. It's always nice to get these random Blitz characters like Miles and Crystal, because yeah, most guys will already have these guys unlocked, and you can kind of mess around with different team combinations and work on different setups, and that way you're not feeling pressured. You have to win every fight, and you need every point in order to hit those milestone and those ranking rewards on Blitz. But anyways, guys, let's jump into it. That's enough chatting here. So we're gonna go in here quickly, and as you guys will see, I don't have my multiplier all the way up at the 4.0 yet, but we're gonna quickly just jump in with some fights here, so you guys can get a sense of how I get those multipliers done. And now do keep in mind different depending on where you are in the game as well here. And we're just gonna jump in here, quickly take a look at my lineup. And you guys will see X-Men, most of my top 4 or 5 teams at the top there, X-Men, Brotherhood. Those are my auto blitz teams. Those are going to come in handy later. I'll show you guys why they're handy. Again, Black Bolt, Power Armor, Red Skull, those are also really nice, solid auto wins for me. And then as you guys can kind of see on the left side as well, I keep some of the team powers together. So the ones that are kind of in that same bracket, Kree, Defenders, and then Defenders jumps back up to 300, and I kind of keep another bracket with all these guys. And then kind of at the end there, you'll see I've got Ultron teams, and that's kind of, I'll explain that later on, but basically all the stragglers that don't have team combinations, and that's why they're with Ultron, and you'll see why. So let's jump in here. We got Red Skull. We're at the 3.8, so we're just gonna get some quick wins here to get the multiplier going, and that's kind of brings us to the first point, getting your multiplier up and going. And you want this at the start, you start at the 2.0 and getting your blitz up. You want to use your lower characters, and usually they'll just auto win and win pretty easy. And then as you kind of stack up and get up to 3.0, 3.5, 3.7, etc., you can use your bigger teams, and I usually just go from the bottom up. I usually start with my smaller teams and then just kind of work my way up on my roster. So as you guys will see here, now it's at the tier 3. We'll call this tier 3 because usually the third tier is the hardest battle, and you guys will see that I've sped this up as well, so that way we can save a few minutes. Yeah, we're gonna just go in with Asgardians. You want to keep some handy teams that you're confident in, and with that in mind, Asgardians, Brotherhood, X-Men, those teams will always win at those tier 3s. Those are the hardest tiers out of the 3 because you have to win them 3 in a row, and then after you win, it pushes you up into the next tier. So after we get this one, then you can see we move up in tier, and now you guys will see that there. So we're just quickly jumping in on another team here. Let's see. Yeah, we can do a Taskmaster. We can get the multiplier going here, or we can do Sinister 6. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter what we use. We'll just jump in here, and again, just showing you guys examples. First tier is usually pretty easy, I find. You can just we'll just quickly make sure we get the buffs going here with the PA teams, and then these are one of my favorite ones too, to auto blitz, because once you get the once you get the speed up from Falcon, you can pretty much just hit all blitz, and everyone's just gonna blow everything up with War Machine and Iron Man and everything like that. And the Avengers buff coming too, that's gonna be really sweet. It's gonna tie in very nicely with if you want to bring back Iron Man into the crew. It'll be interesting. Yeah, the Avengers buff looks amazing. Hulk's getting a big buff with health. Black Widow's gonna be a bleeding machine. Hawkeye's getting a massive buff as well with the speed downs and the blinds. Or I guess he already had blinds, but it's just gonna be a really nice buff. Captain America, like the extra additional block chance, and then obviously the heals on all allies as well. That's gonna be wicked. So I'm really looking forward to that. So now, as you guys will see here, we're moving into the 3rd tier again here. So once we that will pretty much bring up to my next point, which is you want so as you kind of get closer to the tiers, and depending on where you are in the game, if you're late game, your early game, or your mid game, you're gonna hit those obstacles on those 3rd tiers and getting those 3 wins directly in a row. So now we're at another tier 3 mark, and that's brings me to my next point. You want a closer. You want a team that you have absolute confidence in, that they can close out the deal and they can bring you up to the next rank. Obviously that's going to bring us up to the 4.0 rank, or tier 8.0 is what everyone calls it, since there's 8 layers of the multiplier there. And we're going to go in with Brotherhood here. That's why I keep them close to the top, next to my X-Men and my Asgardians and my Black Order team. They're pretty much an auto blitzing winning team for me, and then you don't really have to worry too much. Always checking on the team combinations as well. There's obviously always going to be better team matchups, and you don't want to put yourself up against Ultron teams or X-Men teams or teams with Phoenix. Like that's just gonna create more problems. So you want to make sure you can get good matchups. If it looks like your opposing team doesn't even have any synergy, that's even better. So obviously right now this team is kind of like it's like a little weird mixed match of Avengers and some stragglers, and well, that's fine. That's that works for us, because we're just gonna obliterate these guys once we get the Juggernaut smash going here. And then obviously Blob has just been a very, very nice addition as well with Toad in the BH teams. So the Brotherhood's been kicking butt for me, and as an example here, they're a nice team to close it out and bring us up to 4.0. So once we get to that highest multiplier, that's going to give us the most points, and that's where you want to maximize your teams. And that brings us to our next tip, which is auto blitzing teams that that can win without you having to check on the game. And I mean, that's going to depend on where you are in the game, but most of the time, if you're using those cookie cutter builds from any of the Discord infographics from Casino's crew, they have all those cookie cutter teams, like Kree minion teams, and then there's X-Men teams, Black Order teams. Those teams are fairly consistent. They win pretty solid all the time, and I think once you get them T4'd and and geared up and tiered up, it makes it look easy. So Fantastic Four is obviously one I'll use. Marauders, with Emma Frost coming as well, they'll also be a very, very good team, I think, on Blitz. Once we get her unlocked, she's coming this week as well. So I mean, once she gets unlocked, I'm gonna level her and add her to the mix here. But obviously you guys can see here that they're not pure auto blitzing winning teams right now. I like to focus on who I can clone, and then once I know that there's like a couple guys left over, I can smack that auto blitz. So we're at 4.2, so now we want to get to the last tier, and that's usually the hardest one for this tier. So we want to get to 8.3, which is the 8th multiplier, which is 4.0. It's weird how people came up with the terminologies, but again, matchups, I mean, AIM team isn't going to do too well against other teams there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to bring it to the next point. We're going to switch up with similar power levels. So AIM team wasn't that good, let's say, against defenders or something like that. And let's see if I got yeah, we can go in here. I'll just go back here and show you guys what I'm talking about. So we'll go in at the Spider-Verse again, and let's say these guys are terrible against Ultron, and we don't want to play that Asgardian. So then these ones are the most viable matchups, and again, that's still a pretty tough matchup, I'd say. Like, let's, we could probably win this, but let's just say, for example, we weren't sure, then that's where we look for a similar power level team. So they're kind of in that high 200 range, and so you would want something similar. So we'll just scroll up, and I know my Black Order team is around that power level, so we'll jump in back to the top, click on Black Order, and we'll go in there. Same team, similar power levels, and we know for sure that Black Order can definitely take these guys. So this takes a little bit more time, obviously, if you're in a hurry and you're trying to scroll through and make sure, but I've done this enough to know what matchups are good, and I myself know my team power levels. So now, thanks to the blitzing options where you can kind of scroll through the teams. If you have a general idea of how your teams are and where their levels are at, you can always switch up the matchups if they're not favorable. So using similar power team levels, I don't believe it's just an algorithm in the game. They just kept it similar. If it's a bigger team, like significantly larger, I think if it's like 50,000 or 40,000 larger, then the team matchups actually change. But if it's a similar power level within 10 or 20,000 of each other, usually the matchups stay consistent, and then that way you can switch the matchups and give yourself a better favorable team that's more effective against that team, and then that way you're not you're not going to lose that 70,000-80,000 points that you're going to get. So there you guys have it there. Luckily for us, Black Order pretty much takes everything, so I'm always looking forward to seeing if there's a similar matchup, and then that way I can just throw them in there and a bada bing, a bada boom. So there you go, easy points there. Next one we'll go on is X-Men. Similar to Black Order, they can pretty much take anything, and they're usually my go-to team at the start, because what ends up happening is they can net the 100k points that I can get, and then I just usually refresh it a few times as well here, since Phoenix is just an absolute beast. She just takes on anything. Also ties in with that earlier point where you want a team that you can trust in auto blitz, so you don't have to keep checking on it, right? You want to make sure you have teams that are reliable, and that way you're not spending all day watching the game. Usually I can play this on on the desktop, or if you're if you're out and about and you got your phone handy, then you can just slap on the auto blitzing and then just get those easy points. So there you guys have it there, easy peasy. And if we're talking about X-Men, we're going to move on to our next point, which I alluded to earlier, X-Men / Ultron. Still part of the same mix, but throwing all your stragglers that you're not very comfortable with. So I've got a 5-star Nobu, and I've got like a 6-star Hand Assassin, and they've got quite a bit of power on their own, but obviously if you put them together with an actual hand team, there's no way they would even stand a chance against the Avengers, right? There's just no way. So I mean, luckily for us, Ultron is the extra piece we need. Luckily, he scales very nicely in Blitz, and I mean, he's lost a bit of effectiveness because all the other legendaries are coming out, with 6-7 red stars, and he has lost a bit of favor in my arena shards, but nonetheless, he is still one of the best characters in the game, especially if we're talking about 1 versus 1. And it just so happens that you don't really need the hand minions or anyone else. You just need him to get going. Once he gets that Ultron bot minion fuel coming, the engine just runs, and you can just leave it on cruise control. And having said that, we're going to move on to the next team there. Again, stragglers that I don't really have a place for right now. We're going to jump into another one here. Maybe the Hawkeye mix. Actually, that one looks like a crappier setup. Doesn't matter, I guess. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll just go in with this one. I'm still working on my X-Force team, so that's why Cable's kind of in that weird mix. Still got to level up my Domino and my X-23 and Negasonic, so that's why he's still in the mix here. But it helps out because I got all these other stragglers, Crossbones, Cable, and it just helps out. Yeah, it just helps out that all you have to do is pay 5 refreshes, and he can pretty much net you the extra 80,000 points that helps towards especially if you're trying to push as high as you can on that arena ranking, the Blitz ranking rewards there. So it really helps out there. And once he gets going, there's no stopping Ultron. He's an absolute monster. So there you guys have it there. And having said that, now we've talked about X-Men and Ultron, and now we can talk about the variants as well here. And I'll scroll down to my next setup. And what we're going to do is we're going to take out Ultron and the AIM Infector, and then we're just going to throw in a Phoenix Colossus mix. Why? Because they're so powerful. There's characters obviously in the game that are just scaled so powerfully that you just need the two together. And I recently found this out, obviously, when I was doing Dark Dimension 3, where I realized, holy crap, you don't need any of the X-Men. You just need Phoenix and Colossus, and they can pretty much handle everyone on their own. So you guys will see here, they're pretty much on their own here, and it looks like I might lose this, but once Phoenix lets her ult, all fury will be unleashed. So there you guys have it there. Easy peasy. Also, it doesn't hurt that I have them both T14'd and they're totally decked out. But again, we will just take off 2 of these guys, and we'll throw in Phoenix and Colossus. And again, I've preset my teams in a way so that way I can remove 1 or 2 characters and still have the next batch ready to go. And that's kind of the way I set my teams up. So again, it's going to change depending on your roster size, how many players you got unlocked there, how many characters you got unlocked. It's going to change your setup. But obviously the ones that don't have any favorable homes right now, they can suit in those roles. Other variants I've used, Black Bolt and Yo-Yo do nicely as well, and I've also used Taskmaster and the Mercenary Guard as well, and they work very nicely together as that 1-2 punch that helps those other 3 guys rebalance out. So really nice there. Hopefully you guys found this useful there. And lastly, I think we're almost done here. I think I'll just show you guys another example of a similar power level, since we did run that one pretty quick. And yeah, so you can see here the we can see that it's a pretty good matchup there between the brawlers and that one. And then what we'll do is we'll switch over to our Black Bolt team because it is pretty similar. And then I'm pretty sure I would have won that fight anyways, even with Captain Marvel and the brawlers. But again, if that favorable wasn't if that matchup wasn't favorable, reverse my words there, sorry guys, then we can switch out to one of these teams. And again, the very nice part of my Black Bolt and Yo-Yo team is they are very good on auto blitzing. They're so good. I think Black Bolt just makes a team complete with his damage, and then Yo-Yo just adds that extra layer of defense. So really nice there. So you guys see that there. And then having said that, let's assume that this isn't a good matchup either, and we'll just flip back to the Captain Marvel team. So that's another version of that. You can do it, you can always punch up or down with the similar power levels, but I find this to be one of the best ways. And the way I've kind of layered my teams, your roster with similar power levels together, helps speed that process up. So usually I keep them in bunches of 3 or 4, and except at the start I just keep X-Men and Black Order and Asgardians all together, because they obliterate everything. Even on the tier 3s of that multiplier, they just decimate the teams. Their just synergy is just too good. It breaks the game. So that's pretty much there. And yeah, that's it for that one. So that's similar power levels again. We're just revisiting that to show you guys. And the last thing I will leave you guys with is the predictions. So obviously, if we go through here and look at the actually, this is a bad example. Maybe I'll run into the crystal one and show you guys what I'm talking about. But obviously everybody wants to get into the top 100, top 2000 or whatever, and you don't know how much to go for, right? So obviously we go into leaderboards, we go straight to the bottom. That's the number. If you would have pushed that high, you would have gotten to the top 100. So how do you know how far exactly to push for, right? And that's kind of where Casino, Tawa, and his some of the other guys, I forget their name here, I'm just gonna scroll here, so you guys will see there, Trawa, Liverpool, Joho, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but as you can see, it's fairly accurate. Top 100 they predicted to be 22 mil, and I think we saw that top 100 was like in the 20ish range. So again, fairly good, because it usually gives people an idea of how far to push, right, and how far you should be farming and pushing on the blitz. So that's kind of where this is important for that. You want to make sure you know how far you're going. So anyways, we're gonna jump back in here, and last thing I will leave you guys with here before I forget is purposely losing. So let's just go back in here and have a look at some matchups. So again, like I said, the predictions will help you guys kind of gauge where you should go and how far you should be hitting and how far you should be farming a session or something like that. But anyways, let's assume that the AIM team let's just say they have a terrible matchup against somebody. It doesn't matter who. And we go in with the crappy cards, the crappy characters you haven't leveled up, and they're absolute trash. And that's kind of nice, where if you can't excel at that 4.0 multiplier, then you can bring back down to the lower tiers. Doesn't necessarily need to be 4.0. Determine where you're comfortable at. It could be 3.9, could be 3.8, could be 3.7. It all just really depends on your characters and the levels and the tiers and where you are in the game. But obviously you want to stick around a comfortable range where you can get consistently a lot of wins. And having said that, we're not going to win 100% of the fights. Just so happens during my recording here, it seems like we won everything, but usually out of my 25, 26 teams that I have viable, I'm usually winning about, I'd say, more than 92% or 90. Like, I think maybe I got 1 or 2 teams that I usually just have to purposely drop them. Like sometimes it's close, and then RNG just isn't in your favor, and then you lose. But for most of the time, if you have those cookie cutter teams and you've got those synergies, and you got them leveled up to like 60, 70, or tier 10 or whatever, and they are pretty decent, pretty decently leveled, usually you won't have too much trouble. It just all depends on your matchups and being smart. And if they're terrible matchups, like I said already, switch them up, right? Use similar team power levels. Use ones that are better favorable matchups. Or you can do what I'm doing right now. We're going to lose on purpose, but as you can see there, AIM's most likely going to win this one. It's just a bit slower. They don't have that much offense to begin with, but nonetheless, there's just no offense to the other side. So we've got Scientist Supreme laying the waste here. So this one's going to be an easy win for us. All right, guys. So hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you guys found this useful. If not, if you have some tips and tricks you want to share, by all means. But hopefully this helped you guys out, and hopefully you guys might have learned something from purposely losing as well. So that got us about a mil. We got a mil in this session. All right, guys. Okay, we will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, guys, happy gaming.